about to take this shit on 3, man. 1, 2, 3. Jumbo can't even fuck for my birthday, man. Everybody coming up to stare.
State of Florida versus Isaiah Jermaine Chance, case number 24 CF 11996A, trial division 1, verdict form. We, the jury, finds as follows as to count 1, victim Charles Jones. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder as charged. Did the state of Florida prove beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant was a member or an associate of a criminal gang during the commission of the offense? Yes. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant committed the crime for the purpose of benefiting, promoting, or furthering the interests of a criminal gang? Yes. We, the jury, finds as follows as to count 2, victim Charles Jones. The defendant is guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder as charged.
The 4 men who killed Jacksonville rapper Julio Foolio have been found guilty. First-degree murder, all of them convicted for the planned killing of Julio Foolio on his own birthday. But what the court just dropped is every single piece of evidence that proved exactly how they did it, who coordinated it, and how a 5-person team drove over 200 miles from Jacksonville to Tampa to make sure Charles Jones never saw 27. And it is damning. Before we get to the surveillance footage of the actual ambush, before we get into the interrogation room video of one of the suspects pretending to shoot Foolio with his bare hands right after his arrest, and before we get into the verdict, we have to go back to the beginning. Because to understand what happened in that Tampa parking lot at 4:30 in the morning, you need to know who Charles Jones was, where he came from, and what kind of war he had been living inside of for years before that night finally caught up with him. Charles Andrew Jones II was born on June 21st, 1998, and he grew up in a Jacksonville neighborhood called Moncrief, also known as Hilltop Village or the Bricks by the people who lived there. It was a tough area on the north side of Jacksonville, and Charles did not get much time to be a child before life started hitting.
I'm in LA right now doing all promos, all features, all shows, all walkthroughs. DM right now, man. All the Telegram, all the best distros. If you got the best distro, hit me right now, man. I'm doing promo deals in LA right now, man. DM me right now. Hit me right now. Let's get it rolling, man. I'm here right now, man. Let's get it, man. 6 great man. Get a view, man. Get a view right there. You know what I'm saying? Get a view real quick, man.
When he was just 11 years old, he watched his best friend's mother get shot by her boyfriend. Then in May of 2011, his own father, Charles Rick the Ruler Jones Sr., was shot and killed by a neighbor. Charles was 13 years old and now growing up without a father in a neighborhood where that was already too common. By 2014, another close friend was gone, killed in a drive-by shooting. And at that point, the football dreams Charles had been holding on to started to fade out too.
You had a cousin, Zion Brown.
Yeah, I got him on my stomach tattooed.
19 years old, a man stormed into a house and shot him to death.
Yeah.
The guy that was arrested was a guy named DeAndre Thomas.
Yeah.
Did you know DeAndre?
No, I ain't know, bro.
Okay.
I ain't know, bro, like that.
When you heard about the murder, how'd you feel?
I was crushed. Cause it's like, I could have saved him, like, you know? I could have like, cause I was like on the phone with him, like he called me, he was like, big cuz. That's my cousin, you know what I'm saying? He like, cuz, let me come to Daytona with you. I'm trying to come to Daytona. I was mad at him for a dumb reason. Like, I straight told him, no, bro, you can't come with me. Like, I don't f with you right now. Hung up on him. That night he died, so that my head up. I'm like, damn, holding grudges with like that ain't like that shit like crushed me, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Around 2014 and 2015, Charles connected with a Jacksonville street gang called 6 Block, which was part of a larger crew known as KTA. He picked up the name Foolio because of his wild, unpredictable personality, and also went by Mr. Six. He started rapping seriously in 2015, and Jacksonville drill music became his lane.
You told me you loved me the whole time, I'm knowing that shit was a lie. Why nigga act like I owe him? 2014, man, I ain't even know him. My little brother mad, he said I put Fifi, Lorraine, and Lacho before him. I still love him to death. When Rock ain't die, nigga, you ain't even care. File on the plane, I feel I'm keeping it real, and real is real. Late night sliding 4D, thinking, wondering, will they back to
raw, local, and based on real events from the streets he came from. And over time, he started building a name and a following in the city. Now here is where the story gets important to understand, because the war that eventually got Foolio killed did not start the night of the murder. It had been building for years, and law enforcement testified in court that it was one of the most violent and long-running gang conflicts in the entire state of Florida. The fire really got lit in February of 2017, when Foolio's cousin, Zion Brown, who was 19 years old at the time, was robbed by a man named DeAndre Thomas. Thomas was connected to a rival Jacksonville gang called ATK, which stood for Ace's Top Killers. And the robbery did not just end with property being taken, it ended in retaliation. And that retaliation ended with DeAndre Thomas breaking into a house and shooting Zion Brown dead at 19 years old. From that point on, 6 Block and ATK were at full-scale war, and the body count on both sides started climbing fast. By the time of this trial, detectives were referencing murders and shootings going all the way back to 2017 as part of the same connected feud, which tells you just how deep and how long this thing had been going. The other major name in this story is Youngin Ace, whose real name is Keonta Bullard. Ace was a rapper from the Orange Park area of Jacksonville who was closely connected to ATK, and his rise in the rap world was happening at the same time Foolio's was, which meant the street beef and the music beef were now running on the same track. In June of 2018, Ace and his people were ambushed, leaving a steakhouse in Jacksonville. Ace survived after being shot, but his brother and 2 other people were killed in that attack. Foolio mocked the deaths publicly and in his music, and that sealed something between them that was never going to be settled peacefully.
I mean, when I hear this stuff and as I'm going through it and listening and, all the research I've done, it just sounds like this is just going to keep continuing and more bodies are going to drop, more people are going to get shot, more mothers are going to cry, people are going to lose their brothers and friends and everything else like that. Could there be anything that could be done with, let's just say, you and Young and Ace sitting down together and saying, look, a lot of happened on both ends, but we have to just basically, we don't have to be friends, but we got to get past this and kind of just move on with our careers because we're both successful in our own way.
It probably happen sooner than later. You never know what God got planned, I told him that a couple times, We be talking time to time, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you never know what can happen. It ain't no, you know what I'm saying? We want to kill each other now. We just mutual,
I mean, I've interviewed Young and Ace a couple times.
Yeah.
Cool dude. I have nothing but good things to say about him.
Yeah.
And, as I'm sitting down with you, I'm getting, good vibes from you as well. I don't want to see 2 people that I've sat down with go at it. My purpose when talking about these beefs is not to escalate them, but to say, okay, here it all is. Okay, these people got shot, these people got killed. I understand, but you getting killed over this is not going to prove anything.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? Like, your mom is still alive, right?
Yeah.
You got siblings?
Yep. I got 2 sisters, a little god sister, and a big brother.
Right. You got people who love you.
Definitely.
You got kids?
Nah.
Okay. But you will have kids at one point. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you want to live long enough to have kids.
For sure.
And if you keep going down this road, you're never going to experience what it's like to have kids, which is one of the greatest experiences a human being can have. Yeah, you could go down and say, okay, Foolio, he didn't take no shit from nobody, whatever else, but you're not around to feel that love because you're gone.
Oh, you telling? And it's crazy because I done dodged death so many times. Sometimes I just be like, this is just the way I live. I don't know. I just see death so much.
Foolio sat in that interview and said he had died so many times that dying started to feel like just part of how he lived. Those words hit different once you know how this ended. One thing the court made very clear during this trial is that the music was not separate from the violence. Prosecutors brought multiple drill tracks into the courtroom and played them for the jury as actual evidence of motive. because the songs were doing more than just insulting rivals. They were naming dead people, disrespecting their families, and keeping the rage alive between two groups that had already lost too many people to it. In March of 2021, the ATK side dropped a song called Who I Smoke that went massively viral. It sampled Vanessa Carlton's 1,000 Miles, which people might recognize, but the words underneath that sample were directly mocking and naming deceased members of Six Block. Foolio fired back with his own track called When I See You, which did the same thing from his side, and the video showed him in a graveyard, drinking champagne and dancing over the graves of people connected to ATK. These were real families watching their loved ones get disrespected for views and streams, and it kept the temperature between these two crews permanently at boiling point. The court described the atmosphere driving this case as built on collective hatred and animosity that had been feeding itself for years through music and social media.
Let me tell you, man, I've had so many rappers that I've interviewed die violently.
Yeah.
Or rappers that I was on the phone with the day before and they get killed. Me and Pop Smoke were on the phone 2 days before he died, planning our interview the next week. Me and G Money from Baton Rouge had an interview planned, and then he gets killed. I interviewed Chinks Drugs, who got killed. You know, I've interviewed Mo3, who got killed. Me and King Von's manager were in the process of scheduling scheduling an interview with him. He gets murdered. It's depressing. It's sad. You know, Lil Durk, two members from OTF get killed. Then his brother just gets killed, D-Thing. And you know, me and D-Thing weren't close, but I remember maybe about 5 years ago, we were on the phone with each other, you know, kind of on a regular basis, just talking about, you know, shit around Dirk. He just gets killed. The amount of young men who are dying at a very young age through gunfire is just sad and depressing. And unless someone just steps up and puts the bullet behind them, it's just gonna keep going, because really, it's not like you're the one that's really doing it, because you're the rap star, you're the one with money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the people around you that don't have anything to lose, who don't have a future, who don't have hot records, who don't have money in the bank. They don't give a shit. But you're the one that actually has the most to lose.
Vlad TV said it right there on camera. The people around you with nothing to lose will always be the most dangerous thing in the room. And for Foolio, that danger had been circling for a long time before it caught up with him in Tampa. By the time June of 2024 arrived, Foolio had already survived at least one serious attempt on his life. In October of 2023, someone had tried to ambush him and shot him in the foot, but he walked away from it. He was 25 years old, about to turn 26, and he decided to go to Tampa to celebrate his birthday. And the way he announced that trip is one of the key reasons he did not make it back home. Foolio put his entire Tampa birthday weekend on Instagram. A pool party, club appearances, venues, all of it posted publicly for anyone to see. The people who wanted him dead were watching those posts in real time, and they started moving before he even got there. On June 22nd, 2024, 2 vehicles left Jacksonville and headed down toward Tampa, carrying 5 people whose plan was to find Foolio and end the war on their terms. Highway toll readers and license plate cameras confirmed both vehicles traveling from Jacksonville toward Tampa on that date, and the timing lined up almost perfectly with when Foolio's posts were going up about where he planned to be. When Foolio arrived in Tampa, his crew went to a rented Airbnb for the birthday party, but the owner called the police because there were too many people and it was getting too loud. They got kicked out. So the group moved to clubs instead, first stopping at Teaser's Gentlemen's Club and then going to Truth 18 Lounge on East Bush Boulevard, where Foolio went live on Instagram and showed people exactly where he was in real time. Surveillance cameras outside both clubs caught the Silver Cruise pulling up, with Chance stepping out and walking around looking at his phone. And shortly after, the Black Impala arrived too. Phone records showed calls going between the 2 vehicles as Foolio moved from one place to the next. They were not there by coincidence. They were tracking him step by step. That footage right there was from Foolio's own live stream inside the club that night, his last public moments before everything changed. He had no idea the people who had been following him all night were already in position outside. Around 4:30 in the morning on June 23rd, 2024, which was Foolio's actual birthday, his convoy of vehicles pulled into the parking lot of the Home 2 Suites by Hilton on McKinley Drive near the University of South Florida in Tampa. They were trying to get hotel rooms for the rest of the night because they no longer had a place to stay. Some of Foolio's people went inside to check in. He stayed in the front passenger seat of the black Dodge Charger, reportedly with his feet up on the dashboard, on his phone, trying to figure out the situation. He was sitting there relaxed, not knowing what was about to happen. The black Chevy Impala entered that same parking lot first and slowly circled the entire hotel property, moving in a way that prosecutors described as deliberately avoiding being seen by Foolio's group. About 3 minutes later, the silver Cruze rolled slowly past Foolio's parked Charger, made a U-turn, and came back past it a second time before leaving the lot. Then, less than a minute after that, 3 men dressed completely in black climbed out of the Impala and started walking toward the Charger.
This barrage of gunfire also struck 3 additional victims who miraculously survived this incident. Let's look at this video. This is at the hotel, and you can see the shooters are getting in position for their planned out murder. And they are shooting at Charles now, and you can see that he's the passenger in that car that's moving and trying to flee. And again, they're still shooting at him. He's the right front passenger in that vehicle. It's clear from that video what they were set out to do and what they had planned to do. The investigation would later reveal that the 3 armed shooters were Sean Gaithright, Rashard Murphy, and Davion Murphy. Detectives used footage from the scene, license plate readers, and phone logs to identify 2 vehicles and link them back to the suspects.
2 of those 3 men were carrying AR-style assault rifles, and both of those rifles had black mesh covers fitted around the barrel area that collected the empty shell casings as they fired, so nothing would fall to the ground and be used as evidence. The 3rd man had a 9mm handgun fitted with an extra-long magazine, and it had been modified to fire like a machine gun, releasing bullets continuously the moment the trigger was held down. The 3 of them opened fire on Foolio's Charger all at once, concentrating the shots on the windshield and the passenger side where Foolio was sitting. He tried to climb into the back seat to get away from the bullets, but he could not move fast enough. The driver hit the gas and tried to escape through the parking lot, hopping curbs and driving between other vehicles, while the shooters chased the moving car on foot and kept firing. One of the rifles was so powerful that just the force of it firing triggered the alarm on a Tesla that was parked nearby, and that same Tesla's built-in camera recorded the whole attack.
The Charger crashed to a stop in the parking lot of the adjacent Holiday Inn. 31 spent shell casings from the handgun were recovered at the scene, along with bullet holes in multiple hotel room windows, a family's bedding, parked vehicles, and an air conditioning unit in an occupied guest room. A blood trail led from the Charger through the lobby and up into the hotel floors. Officers followed it and found Foolio still in the front passenger seat. He was gone. He was 26 years old, and it was his birthday.
I'm just on point watching everything, look down at my phone for like a split second, and then something just like ain't feel right. So as soon as I look up, I just see, you feel me? I just kept telling him to duck. He wasn't really saying much. I ain't really hear him say really, cause the gunfire was so loud. I already knew when I stopped the car, cause he wasn't responding. I heard him take his last breath.
3 other people in his group were also shot and wounded. One of them was his childhood friend, Gino Norris, who had been asleep in the back seat and woke up to the car already under fire. He and the driver, who was also hit, made it inside the hotel and up to the 3rd floor, where Norris said the driver kept begging him over and over, "Don't let me die." Camila Bentley, who was in a separate vehicle nearby, was grazed in the arm and said bullets were flying past her face as she tried to find her keys and drive away. A family staying at the hotel, Pablo Gabor and his children, woke up to sounds they thought were explosions and later found a bullet fragment burned into their bedding. The medical examiner who performed the autopsy later testified in court that Foolio was struck multiple times, with the bullet that killed him passing through his lung, his heart, and his aorta, causing massive blood loss that he could not survive. He was found in the car in a defensive position, meaning the last thing he did before he died was try to protect himself. Tampa police and the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office started building the case immediately after the shooting, and what they uncovered over the next few weeks was a level of planning and coordination that prosecutors later described in court as truly alarming. The first big piece was surveillance footage. The hotel had multiple cameras, and so did the surrounding area, including the nearby Tesla's Sentry Mode camera. Together, those recordings captured the entire attack from start to finish. The Impala circling the hotel, the crews making its slow pass by Foolio's car, the actual shooting, and then all of them running back to their vehicle and leaving. Footage from outside both clubs that night also showed the suspects' cars arriving and the people inside them watching Foolio's movements in real time. Then came the phone data, which is where the case really started to come together. Detectives pulled call detail records, cell tower information, and GPS location history from multiple phones. And what they found was a complete picture of how this operation was planned and run on the night of the murder when the night of the murder. One phone showed a Maps app actively running with a route being followed while the vehicle was moving, meaning someone in those cars was looking at navigation directions as they tracked Foolio through Tampa. Instagram activity from Chance and Andrew's phones showed them actively following Foolio's public posts and stories through the night, keeping up with every club he went to. Phone records confirmed calls between Chance and other members of the group timed precisely to Foolio's movements from one location to the next. And after the shooting was done, the group used an Uber to leave from the Tampa Airbnb they had rented as a home base for the operation. And the Impala was driven to Polk County and left at the home of Gathwright's grandmother. Ballistics connected the case to prior incidents as well. Some of the casings recovered at the scene were matched to a prior shooting attempt on Foolio's life in October of 2023 and to another Jacksonville homicide from May of 2024. Suggesting the same weapons had been used in multiple attacks connected to this gang war before this night. Within days, detectives had identified 5 people. All of them were from Jacksonville, all of them connected to the ATK or 1200 factions that had been at war with Foolio's 6-block crew. Arrests began in late June and continued through July of 2024, and every single one of them had a specific job in what the prosecution described as a carefully organized operation. The first person arrested and charged was Isaiah Jermaine Chance, 23 years old.
I'm trying to find a way, no more killing today. I'm trying to find a way, cause they won't come outside today. I'm trying to find a way, don't want nobody else down this way. I put this fish on the drink, foot self if I ain't down today.
He was not one of the shooters, but prosecutors called him the brain behind the logistics of the whole plan. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office gang unit had been documenting him as an active ATK member since 2022, meaning law enforcement had been watching him for 2 years before this happened. His job on the night of the murder was to ride in the cruise with his girlfriend and act as the coordinator, using his phone and Instagram to track Foolio's location and relay information to the rest of the group. When detectives searched his home, they found 2 Glock 9mm handguns and a poster on the wall that said "Bully Down," which prosecutors said was a direct reference to Foolio and the gang.
His girlfriend, Alicia Latoya Andrews, was not a gang member, but she was in that car with him doing the same job. She was tracking Foolio's movements through Instagram, sending updates, and her phone data told the whole story. A digital forensics detective recovered deleted messages from her iCloud account, Airbnb booking records, Cash App transactions, and geotagged photos that placed her in Tampa and connected her directly to the planning of that night. She was tried separately in October of 2025, and the jury found her guilty of manslaughter, a lesser charge than murder, finding that she knowingly helped, but that the full premeditated intent could not be proven beyond doubt for her specifically. She faces up to 15 years. The 3 remaining suspects were the ones who got out of that Impala and pulled the triggers. Sean Andre Gathright was just 18 years old at the time of the murder and the youngest person in the group. He was tied to the Black Impala through surveillance footage, through phone records, and most powerfully, through his own DNA. A forensic analyst testified that tape recovered from one of the rifles had a DNA mixture with Sean Gathright as the single biggest contributor in the sample. That is his genetic material on the murder weapon. On top of that, a detective pulled him over in a traffic stop after the shooting and found him carrying a Glock 9mm and a bag containing .223 caliber rifle rounds, plus 9 spent rifle casings. Then, when investigators searched his home, they found a gun safe with multiple rifles, 2 spent 9mm casings that were matched to the Tampa crime scene, and a rifle fitted with a brass catcher, which is the exact same kind used in the attack. Those same casings also matched prior Jacksonville shootings connected to this same feud. He was also charged with tampering with evidence for wiping down the Impala and leaving it at his grandmother's house. Rashad Travion Murphy, 32, was identified as one of the 3 shooters who came out of that Impala. He was arrested on June 26, 2024, in a hotel parking lot in Gwinnett County, Georgia, after a license plate reader flagged the Silver Cruise near the state line. Officers approached, Rashad saw them coming and took off running, and they had to use a taser twice to bring him down before getting him into custody.
Kids, please, tell me stop recording.
After his arrest, investigators found messages on his phone sent just hours after the murder that read, "I'm coming home, my thirst is quenched. Pop a bottle of Don Julio today." Don Julio is a brand of tequila. Julio was also Foolio's name. Nobody in that courtroom had any questions about what that message meant.
Davion Rashard Murphy, 29, was Rashad's cousin and also identified as one of the 3 shooters. He was the last of the 5 to be arrested. He spent 6 full months on the run before police found him in January of 2025. His defense team argued at trial that there was no physical evidence directly connecting him to Tampa on the night of the shooting, but the prosecution had something they had been saving, and it came from inside the police station on the night of his arrest. After Davion Murphy was booked into custody, officers left him alone in an interview room with a camera on the wall. What that camera caught him doing was played in open court during the first day of trial on April 22nd, 2026, and the footage became one of the most talked about moments of the entire case. Prosecutor Scott Harmon told the jury exactly what they were about to see. That's Mr. Murphy when he was arrested. In this video, you will clearly see Mr. Davion Murphy taking full credit for his role in the shooting. That is just after his arrest, when he is left alone in an interview room. What the video showed, according to Harmon's narration and reporting from the courtroom, was Davion Murphy making his hands into the shape of a gun, pointing them toward the camera and mimicking the act of shooting repeatedly, as if reenacting what he had done hours earlier. His attorney would later stand up and tell the jury there was 0 physical evidence connecting his client to the murder. His client responded to the footage being played by laughing in his seat. That clip spread everywhere the moment it leaked from the courtroom, and a lot of people online said exactly what was on most people's minds. That was not the behavior of someone who had nothing to do with what happened. Jury selection for this trial started on April 8th, 2026, and the process took almost 2 weeks because more than 500 potential jurors had to be screened. Since this was a case where prosecutors were seeking the death penalty, every juror had to confirm they were willing to vote for that outcome if the evidence and the law required it, which is called a death-qualified jury. That is a very specific and high standard to meet, and it narrowed the pool significantly before 12 people were finally seated. Opening statements began on April 22nd, 2026, before Judge Michelle Sisko.
Lead prosecutor Scott Harmon opened by telling the jury, for Charles Jones, there were no more birthdays. All that was left, funeral. He then walked them through 2 weeks of evidence that covered surveillance videos from the clubs and the hotel, phone records with timestamps showing the suspects tracking Foolio through Tampa, ballistics reports linking the casings to Gathwright's home, DNA placing Gathwright's genetic material on a rifle, the medical examiner's account of the wounds that killed Foolio, and the interrogation room footage of Davion Murphy treating the whole thing like a joke. He described the attack as a calculated team operation, carried out with fire supremacy and total disregard for anyone who got in the way.
including families sleeping in their hotel rooms. The 4 defense teams pushed back differently depending on their client. Chance's attorney said the state could not prove his client knew what was going to happen or that he intended to help a murder occur. Gathwright's attorney pointed to his youth, the fact that he was only 18, and argued he had no documented gang ties. Rashad Murphy's attorney zeroed in on the fact that cell tower data did not place Rashad's personal phone in Tampa at the time of the shooting, suggesting possible misidentification. And Davion Murphy's attorney said flat out that there was no physical evidence connecting his client to the crime scene. During closing arguments, the defense collectively accused investigators of finding their suspects first and then building a case around that conclusion, which they framed as confirmation bias rather than real detective work. The drama inside the courtroom also gave people something to watch beyond just the legal arguments. During proceedings on May 7th, while the judge was speaking to the jury, Davion Murphy got into an argument with one of his co-defendants right there in open court, shouting loud enough for everyone to hear, "Stop talking to me, you don't love me." The judge ordered him removed in handcuffs. That was one day before the verdict came in. On the evening of May 8th, 2026, after more than 7 hours of deliberation, the 12 jurors came back into that courtroom with their decision. For a case with 4 defendants, multiple counts each, and the death penalty on the table, 7 hours is fast. It told you something about how the jury felt about the evidence.
State of Florida versus Isaiah Jermaine Chance, case number 24 CF 11996A, Trial Division 1, verdict form. We, the jury, finds as follows as to count 1, victim Charles Jones. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder as charged. Did the state of Florida prove beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant was a member or an associate of a criminal gang during the commission of the offense? Yes. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant committed the crime for the purpose of benefiting, promoting, or furthering the interests of a criminal gang? Yes. We, the jury, finds as follows as to count 2, victim Charles Jones. The defendant is guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder as charged. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant was a member or an associate of a criminal gang during the commission of the offense? Yes. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant committed the crime for the purpose of benefiting, promoting, or furthering the interests of a criminal gang? Yes. So say we all, dated this 8th day of May. Foreperson of the jury, juror number 157, CS. State of Florida versus Sean Andre Gathright, case number 24 CF 11996C, Trial Division 1, verdict form. We, the jury, finds as follows as to count 1, victim Charles Jones. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder as charged. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant personally carry, display, use, threaten to use, or attempt to use a firearm? Yes. During the commission of the offense, the defendant actually possessed a firearm? Yes. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant actually discharge a firearm? Yes. We, the jury, finds as follows as to count 2, victim Charles Jones. The defendant is guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder as charged. We, the jury, finds as follows as to count 3, victim Xavier Edwards. The defendant is guilty of attempted second-degree murder, a lesser-included offense. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant personally carry, display, use, threaten to use, or attempt to use a firearm? Yes. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant actually possess a firearm? Yes. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant actually discharge a firearm? Yes. We, the jury, finds as follows as to count 4, Gino Norris. The defendant is guilty of attempted second-degree murder, a lesser-included offense. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant personally carry, display, use, threaten to use, or attempt to use a firearm? Yes. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant actually possess a firearm? Yes. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant actually discharge a firearm? Yes. We, the jury, finds as follows as to count 5, victim Camilla Bentley. The defendant is guilty of attempted second-degree murder, a lesser-included offense. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant personally carry, display, use, threaten to use, or attempt to use a firearm? Yes. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant personally possess a firearm? Yes. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant actually discharge a firearm? Yes. We, the jury, finds as follows as to count 6. The defendant is guilty of tampering with physical evidence as charged. So say we all dated this 8th day of May, 2026. Juror number 157, CS, foreperson of the jury. State of Florida versus Rashad Trayvon Murphy, case number 24CF 11996D, trial division 1, verdict form. We, the jury, finds as follows as to count 1, victim Charles Jones. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder as charged. During the commission of the offense, the defendant personally carried, displayed, used, threatened to use, or attempt to use a firearm? Yes. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant was a member or an associate of a criminal gang during the commission of the offense? Yes. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant committed the crime for the purpose of benefiting, promoting, or furthering the interests of a criminal gang? Yes. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant actually possess a firearm? Yes. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant actually discharge a firearm? Yes. We, the jury, finds as follows as to count 2, victim Charles Jones. The defendant is guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder as charged. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant was a member or an associate of a criminal gang during the commission of the offense? Yes. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant committed the crime for the purpose of benefiting, promoting, or furthering the interests of a criminal gang? Yes. We, the jury, finds as follows as to count 3, victim Xavier Edwards. The defendant is guilty of attempted second-degree murder, a lesser included offense. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant personally carry, display, use, threaten to use, or attempt to use a firearm? Yes. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant was a member or an associate of a criminal gang during the commission of the offense? Yes. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant committed the crime for the purpose of benefiting, promoting, or furthering the interests of a criminal gang? Yes. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant actually possess a firearm? Yes. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant actually discharge a firearm? Yes. We, the jury, finds as follows as to count 4, victim Gino Norris. The defendant is guilty of attempted second-degree murder, a lesser included offense. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant personally carry, display, use, threaten to use, or attempt to use a firearm? Yes. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant was a member or an associate of a criminal gang during the commission of the offense? Yes. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant committed the crime for the purpose of benefiting, promoting, or furthering the interests of a criminal gang? Yes. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant actually possess a firearm? Yes. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant actually discharge a firearm? Yes. We, the jury, finds as follows as to count 5, victim Camilla Benton. The defendant is guilty of attempted second-degree murder, a lesser included offense. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant personally carry, display, use, threaten to use, or attempt to use a firearm? Yes. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant was a member or an associate of a criminal gang during the commission of the offense? Yes. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant committed the crime for the purpose of benefiting, promoting, or furthering the interests of a criminal gang? Yes. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant actually possess a firearm? Yes. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant actually discharge a firearm? Yes. So say we all dated this 8th day of May 2026, juror number 157, CS, foreperson of the jury. In the state of Florida versus Davion Rashad Murphy, case number 24CF 11996E, trial division 1, verdict form. We, the jury, finds as follows as to count 1, victim Charles Jones. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder as charged. If during the commission of the offense, did the defendant personally carry, display, threaten to use, or attempt to use a firearm? Yes. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant was a member or an associate of a criminal gang during the commission of the offense? Yes. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant committed the crime for the purpose of benefiting, promoting, or furthering the interests of a criminal gang? Yes. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant actually possess a firearm? Yes. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant actually discharge a firearm? Yes. We, the jury, finds as follows as to count 2, victim Charles Jones, the defendant of conspiracy to commit murder, first degree, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder as charged. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant was a member or an associate of a criminal gang during the commission of the offense? Yes. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant committed the crime for the purpose of benefiting, promoting, or furthering the interests of a criminal gang? Yes. We, the jury, finds as follows as to count 3, victim Xavier Edwards, the defendant is guilty of attempted second-degree murder, a lesser included offense. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant personally carry, display, use, threaten to use, or attempt to use a firearm? Yes. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant was a member or an associate of a criminal gang during the commission of the offense? Yes. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant committed the crime for the purpose of benefiting, promoting, or furthering the interests of the criminal gang? Yes. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant actually possess a firearm? Yes. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant actually discharge a firearm? Yes. We, the jury, finds as follows as to count 4, victim Gino Norris, the defendant is guilty of attempted second-degree murder, a lesser included offense. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant personally carry, display, use, threaten to use, or attempt to use a firearm? Yes. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant was a member or an associate of a criminal gang during the commission of the offense? Yes.
The jury also made a specific legal finding that Chance and both Murphys were active criminal gang members and that these crimes were committed to benefit that gang, which matters for how their sentences are calculated. Gathright was also found guilty of tampering with physical evidence for what he did with the Impala. All 4 men stood there as those words were read out. Sean Gathright, the youngest one, broke down crying in open court. The state attorney's office put out a statement that said, "This guilty verdict delivers accountability and justice for Charles Jones' family, but it also sends a clear message that this community will not tolerate ruthless and calculated violence." Foolio's mother, Sandrika Mays, was watching the whole thing, and once the verdicts came through, she went straight to Instagram and posted. Her caption read, "Justice for Foolio, the right get back, Guilty as charged. We all gonna cry together. What they say? Pop a bottle of Don Julio, let's drink up." She was throwing Rashad Murphy's own post-shooting taunt directly back in their faces. You sent that message about popping Don Julio after you killed her son? She was now popping Don Julio to celebrate the day you got found guilty. The verdicts were only the first part of what came next. Since all 4 men were convicted of first-degree premeditated murder, the same jury that just found them guilty was kept together for the penalty phase, which is the part of the trial where the jury decides whether these men live the rest of their lives in prison or get the death penalty. That phase began on May 11th and 12th, 2026, and as of the time this video was published, it was still ongoing.
Foolio's mother gave a victim impact statement describing what it felt like to lose her son, the weight of having his birthday overlap with the anniversary of his murder, and the last time she physically saw him on June 21st, just 2 days before he was killed. On the defense side, the lawyers brought in family members and experts to make the case for mercy. Gathwright's grandmother, Lorna Allen, came in from New York and took the stand to describe the grandson she raised.
He was the life of the party. He would give us jokes. We would laugh. You know, he would dance. He'd tell us about his cooking. I remember one Thanksgiving. We were spending Thanksgiving in New York. And we were cooking, and he came upstairs with a bag. And he was saying, you know, waving the bag like this. I didn't know what was in the bag, but there was a surprise for, on the menu that I didn't know about. So they asked me, it was time for me to go upstairs and get dressed. And they quickly, it was alligator tail, and they quickly prepared the alligator tail. It came down, it was like a deep fried tail. We came down to the table, And they said, okay, we're gonna start eating. And we didn't know what it was, but it looked so good. It looked more like shrimp. And when we tasted it, we all said, this is good. So we were all eating, and he knew, but he said, doing like this, and we didn't realize he was wagging the tail of the alligator. So when we finished eating, he said, okay, do you want to know what you just ate? And nobody knew what it was, but it was delicious. And he said, alligator tail. And everybody started to, say, oh, well, we ate it and nothing happened. So, it was very funny, but it was a good meal.
Gathright also took the stand himself during the penalty phase to speak directly to the jury.
I just want to address the court today, and, I'm not here to dispute anything. I'm just here to be a man and take responsibility and express my feelings about was, this whole situation. That's what I plan on doing.
Okay. And how do you feel? What?
I feel very remorseful, This is a terrible situation. It's been a traumatic experience,
Let me ask you this. So, how old were you when you were arrested?
I was 18 years old.
The prosecution was not buying it. They cross-examined Gathright and asked him directly whether he felt that same remorse when he was running back to the Impala with an AR-15 in his hands, when he drove that same car to his grandmother's house the next day and left it there, and when he went to a club in Orlando later that same night and was filmed drinking Don Julio tequila.
My question to you is, after you and your friends inflicted that carnage on June 23rd, and as you were running States 2059C, this is actually you running to shoot them, but when you were running back past that Tesla, were you feeling a lot of trauma at that point?
It was so long ago, I try to not remember anything from that night.
Were you remorseful as you were running back with that AR-15 in your hands?
Like I said, I try to remember nothing from that night.
Was it traumatic to you as you went back to the car with that AR-15? Was it still smoking? Was it still warm in your hands from firing it?
Sustain the objection.
Were you feeling remorse as you were getting back into the Impala?
Like I said, I just try to focus on today and moving forward.
So the next day, that Impala, that was your car. You drove that around, right? It was your mom's, but you drove that car, correct?
Yes, sir. It was my mother's car.
Right. And that was the car you drove from Jacksonville to Tampa in, correct? I'm working to a point, Your Honor.
Okay, why don't we just get there?
Right. So this car, this Impala that you drove from Jacksonville to Tampa in, with Mr. Chance and Miss Andrews, the one that you drove in tandem with the Silver Cruise, the same car that you utilized to drive the assault team, the shooting team, which you were a part of that night. That same car that you drove around Tampa in the early morning hours for several hours, tracking, stalking, and hunting Charles Jones and his entourage.
Sustain.
That same Impala, you drove that to Polk County the next day, and you dropped it at your grandmother's house, right? The same grandmother who came in here last night and testified for you, correct?
Overall, go ahead. You can answer that question.
Isn't that correct?
What is the question?
You dropped the Impala, the one that had all of these shooters in it, the one that was utilized in this murder, that was such a vital cog in this plan. You dropped it at your grandmother's house in Auburndale, didn't you?
I'm here to testify about today.
Are you going to answer that question, or are you going to avoid it? Because that's not what I asked what you were doing here today. I think we all understand what you're here to do today, what you're testifying about. I'm asking you specifically about your remorse. Were you remorseful when you dropped that car off and left it at your grandmother's house in Auburndale?
I did go to my grandmother's house.
Were you feeling remorse when you hugged her and got into the 4Runner and left her with the Impala after you wiped it down?
Sir, I'm just telling you that today I would like to express my remorse to the family and to the court.
I understand what you're trying to do today. I'm asking you, since you're trying to convince this jury that you're remorseful, were you feeling remorse that next day or later that day?
I don't remember these days in detail, how I was feeling, what I was thinking.
What about later that night when you went to Orlando? Were you feeling remorse when you were out partying at Club Parlay, celebrating what you had done that day?
That was my sister's birthday party.
What did you feel any remorse while you were drinking Don Julio tequila and putting that in your video and throwing gang signs?
I'm here to testify about today, sir. We've all seen the evidence. We've all reviewed everything.
Mr. Chance, it's not time for you now to make speeches. You've politely answered your counsel's questions. Can you not answer the state's questions?
He had no real answer for any of it, and the prosecution also walked the jury through just how comfortable Gathwright's upbringing had been, pointing out that he had traveled internationally, went to a selective school, came from a family with loving parents and grandparents, and had every resource available to him before this night.
Mr. Gathwright, you have led, you would agree with me, an extremely privileged life, haven't you?
Yes, sir.
You would agree with that, correct?
I would.
You've had a loving mother, correct?
Yes, sir.
A loving sister, correct?
Yes, sir.
You've had 2 wonderful grandmothers, correct?
Yes, sir.
You would agree with me, right?
I couldn't deny that.
One of which, probably, I'm assuming, sacrificed and paid for you to go to that private school, that preparatory school, correct?
It wasn't paid. It was a magnet program, so I had to apply, and it was a lottery system.
It was a lottery system. Okay, so it was a magnet.
Yes, sir.
All right. She supported you going there, did she not?
Everybody did.
Gave you open use of her house, welcomed you, treated you, and parented you, basically, didn't she?
Yes, sir.
Took care of you when your parents were deployed, correct?
Yes, sir. At the time, I was living with my grandmother. Both of my parents had been either retired or out of the military. I was just living there more so. I needed a change of scenery, and my relationship with my father wasn't sustainable.
Okay. This is when you're in Oxford with your grandmother.
Yes, sir.
The nice lady we saw earlier came in here.
Yes, sir.
The one that has supported you and spoke so lovingly about you, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so you went to this preparatory school, and whether you got in there through a lottery or not, you would agree with me, not everybody gets to go to a school like that, correct?
The lottery school, the magnet school I went to was in middle school when I was living in Jacksonville. The school I went to in Oxford, it was just a public high school.
A public high school.
Yes,
okay, my mistake. So you went to that preparatory school in Jacksonville.
Yes, sir.
But again, that school was not something that every kid gets to go to, right?
No, sir.
Not every kid gets to have a counselor and a role model like Mr. Edwards, correct?
No, sir. I was very blessed.
And not many children get to fly in planes with their stepfather, correct?
No, sir.
And fly around in Asia and get to see islands off the coast of Okinawa, correct?
No, sir. I was
And go on
very
camp-
blessed.
You are very blessed, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
And not every kid gets to go to Scotland, right?
No, sir.
Or Ireland,
No, sir.
or Paris,
No, sir.
or London,
No, sir.
or Spain.
No, sir.
Cape Town or Johannesburg, or both in South Africa?
Cape Town.
Cape Town, beautiful city, right? You got to go experience that when you were growing up, correct?
I did.
Because you had such loving people around you supporting you, correct?
Yes, sir.
In fact, your grandmother went with you on that trip, did she not? Or not on that one, but on the ones to
Several
Europe,
trips.
correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And we heard you got to meet up with your sister in one of those trips, correct?
I did. I had the privilege.
So you always had someone there taking care of you, and you always had good, strong male role models, including people at your grandmother's church and your stepfather, Mr. Harrington, correct?
I had male role models in my life growing up, but in my more formative years, more so 16 to 18, I did not have a relationship with my father, and the male role models that came and testified, they were present but not intimately as whenever I was younger, maybe middle school years. But when I turned around 16 to 18, it was the females that actually had that caregiving and, you know, nurturing relationship with me. But
Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it.
yes, sir. Towards the more recent years, I didn't have that one-on-one and very close relationship with, you know, those male role models in my life. You know, you heard my stepfather say, you know, after the divorce.
I did hear that, Mr. Chance. Let me stop you, okay, and we'll go back to my question. I'm sorry?
Mr. Gathright.
I'm sorry, I keep calling you that, Mr. Gathright.
The point was clear. This was not someone who had no other options. He had every option in the world, and he still chose to be in that parking lot. There is still one thread hanging in this case that has not been fully settled. Alicia Andrews, the woman who rode in that cruise with Chance and helped track Foolio through the night, was convicted of manslaughter in October of 2025, but she has still not been sentenced.
State of Florida versus Alicia Latoya Andrews, case number 24 CF 11996, Trial Division 1, verdict form. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 1, the defendant is guilty of manslaughter, a lesser included offense. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 2, the defendant is not guilty. So say we all, dated this 31st day of October 2025, signed foreperson of the jury.
The situation got complicated when the original judge in her case, Michelle Cisco, was removed by the 2nd District Court of Appeal in January of 2026 after her defense attorney filed a legal motion arguing that the judge had shown bias against the defense throughout the trial, including hostile comments, publicly siding with prosecutors in front of the jury, and what the court described as failing to maintain the kind of neutral behavior a judge is required to have.
Good morning. Yeah, you're right. So Andrews' sentencing is on hold, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to get a lot of layers happening this morning a little later in court. Now, her defense team is expected to ask the court to reconsider pretrial and trial rulings. This also includes a motion for judgment of acquittal. Andrews' request comes on the heels of 4 other defendants in the case, including her former boyfriend being found guilty of first-degree murder Friday in the 2024 shooting death of Charles Jones, a.k.a. Julio Foolio.
There is a gang war. That is the motive in this case. And the mountain of evidence that you have in front of you shows that each and every one of those defendants is guilty of everything that they are charged with.
A twist, though, in Andrews' trial, the Florida Supreme Court recently removed her original judge, Michelle Cisco, from the case after defense claims of bias during trial sparked by exchanges that defense attorneys later cited in a formal motion to remove her.
As of May of 2026, Andrews' legal team was in court actively arguing to throw out the manslaughter conviction entirely and give her a completely new trial, using the disqualified judge's conduct as the basis for the argument. Her sentencing has been pushed back with a possible new date around May 22nd, 2026. If the conviction holds, she faces up to 15 years. The thing about this case that hits the hardest is not just what they did, it is how they did it. They sat outside those clubs and watched Foolio through his own Instagram posts. They circled that hotel parking lot in the dark. They waited until he had nowhere to go. And they did all of that on his birthday, while he was just trying to celebrate being alive for another year. Foolio himself said on camera that he had died so many times that death felt like just part of how he lived. What does it cost a person to get that comfortable with dying at 25 years old? And what does it say about this whole thing when the people who killed him celebrated afterward like they had won something, when 4 of them are now sitting in a courtroom fighting for their own lives? Drop your thoughts in the comments and click on one of the cards to see more videos like this. And if this is your first time here, drop a sub, because we follow these cases all the way through. We are not going anywhere.